plays, 3-4 plays, then Zach Borish breaks off that 70-yard touchdown rush. We also see CJ Jordan the rest of the game. It appeared as if he got injured. We don't know what the injury is. All I know is we saw him over on the sideline. You can see him on the TV without his shoulder pads on in the first half, and he was back in full street clothes the second half. So don't know his status. So then, Mike Beaudry comes in and plays. I think that's a massive I'm going to talk about a positive of his, Chris, because I think that was Mike Beaudry's best game to date, stat-wise.
Yeah.
People are going to criticize, people are like, oh, Beaudry's not that good, or that last throw, that pick, they're in the game, right? Like, overall, we had not seen he threw the ball vertically. He challenged them. We challenged more vertically this game than we ever have before. He made smart throws for the most part, kept his high completion percentage. Mm-hmm. I was pretty impressed. Like, if that's a Beaudry we're going to get, however long CJ could be hurt, if that's a Beaudry we get, yes, this team can win 5 or 6 games, like 6 games. Like, that's possible. We all were thinking this is a loss, right? Like, yeah. I mean, this is the number 8 team in the country. I don't care if they're missing their starting quarterback. This quarterback beat Weber last week, and we also were missing our starting quarterback technically after one drive.
Yeah,
the guy who coached the guy who coached Petrino thought gave us a better chance to win got hurt in the first 3 plays.
Yeah,
and we still only lost by a touchdown at the end of the game.
According to UC Davis's sports talk, Aggie sports talk, they actually are kind of in the same situation with us, where they think that this backup is actually maybe better than Rodriguez. So, the whole backup argument, I mean, I'm sure that's more of maybe a vocal minority than a majority, but I did see people on their sports stack saying this guy actually is was really pushing to be the starter this year. So it's and we saw it. He played, what's his name? Miles Hastings, 15 for 27, 144 yards, and a touchdown. It's not like he's bad. We just struggled with that Trent Tompkins fella, who's their Zach Borish, and they struggled with our Zach Borish. This was a pretty even matchup. Game. Yes, they hashtag let Tompkins throw. We just hashtag didn't let Borish throw.
Hey, but Borish had that 70-yard touchdown run he broke off, so I can't be too upset about it, right? I mean, we're trying to. It was really late last night. I think people are why in our group message it was why are people disappointed? Why are people pissed at the outcome? I think it's because if you look at the performance, the Idaho performance on the field, we need to be better in the red zone, right? Special teams will get there. But we outgained UC Davis by 100 yards.
Yep.
Our 500 yards of offense last night. When's against the top 10 team in the FCS, Chris, that allowed Weber, nothing last week, right? I feel pretty good. I mean, if that's where we're going to be, if we're going to be able to put up yards like that, I'm fairly positive. And I'm looking at the season with a little bit more, not rose color, a little more happy, right? A little more positives going forward. I think, there's no reason this team can't compete with anyone in the Big Sky if they have a good performance, right? They have the ability to compete with anyone on any given Saturday, I think, in the Big Sky. So I took that away last night from that performance.
Yeah, I mean, just you nailed the quarterback competition. I mean, we're all excited to see Jordan, right? We put out a tweet and everything. The Jordan era begins today. And then, unfortunately,
injuries.
The injury bug appears to have struck. As, like you said, pads were off. He had ice. Brian Marceau is joining us now. Mr. Marceau, how are you?
Hey, guys. I got to be quick. Just a cameo, similar to when Chris has made a couple
cameos
calls in after he's had a few. But
give us your takeaways.
Okay. Don't know where the conversation's gone. If this is a repeat, guys, sorry. First takeaway is UC Davis is a top 10 team. We controlled a lot of that game. I hate that we lost, but Vandal fans have to at least be happy that our temperature right now after our conference is we hung fine, and we should have beat one of the best teams in the Big Sky. Lost CJ after a couple plays, and Mike Beaudry was fine. There's of course stuff to critique. UC Davis eventually figured out he was going to throw just about only short balls. They started sitting on some of the routes, and also they started blitzing much harder second half. But my first takeaway is Vandal. I'm okay that on the road we hung with one of the best teams, outgained them by 100 yards, and should have won. But the second takeaway is, Chris, don't know if you guys have talked about this. I'm pretty dang frustrated. We should have won that game. We absolutely had the talent to hold, even with losing starting quarterback CJ and having to change plans. And I think viewers probably saw it was a different offense with Mike in there than CJ. CJ, they're having him run a lot. It was a completely different setup. We still should have won that game. We have to win that game. It's not a talent issue, guys. I mean, you want to say it's a talent issue for us to be a top 10 team. I'm okay saying that. But against UC Davis, we were fine talent-wise. We did not look outclassed in any facet of that game. In fact, in moments we looked like we were just taking it to UC Davis. But if we're going to outgain a team, we almost gained at 500 yards that game. If we're going to do that and only score 20 points, guys, it's going to be tough to win because our offense executes fine. We've talked about on the show 100 times. If we're not going to score around 30, we're just not going to win games against good teams. And hey, 30 would have won that game.
Yeah. I think you kind of hit on my big takeaway that we'll get into it more because Alex and I are going to go positives, negatives, takeaways. But yeah, I think you nailed it. Like we were kind of joking. You'll love this before you came on. The thing we struggled with most was their hashtag Trent Tompkins got to throw, and our hashtag Let Boris did not get to throw. So that could have been the decider there. But we were right. I mean, our offense, which has looked pedestrian a lot of the time, had outgained them by 100 yards. Our defense, all things considered, UC Davis is a good offense. They looked a lot better than they did it in the spring against that UC Davis team. It's just it's a tough game, but yeah, you're welcome to stay on for as long as you want, but we're going to switch back to positives real quick.
I'll do one last take, and I'll let you guys run the show because I got stuff going on in the background. Also, I watched football till very late, so
that's why, hence the morning review show.
Well, yeah, no, watch the Eastern game is fantastic, but also someone may have helped me with childcare to let me watch those games, so I got to put it on the other end this morning. But no, that was the thing was with Zach Borish too. Like Borish looked great running the ball. I mean, especially that broken 60-yard run he broke, fantastic. But teams like Davis, once they figure, like, part of the deception of that play was CJ was in there too. Part of teams are going to figure out, especially good teams, that if Borish is in there, he's never throwing. So after that run, he did get another touchdown later, and maybe red zone he can be more effective. But other than that run initially, like UC Davis was fine when Borish was in because they knew he wasn't going to do anything but run. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Give the dude a shot. There's no way. Also, with a lot of the short passes that Beaudry's throwing, like you're just not going to sell me on Borish can't make a couple of those. I mean, we need to see him throw, but in the scrimmage, his arm looked fine. So we'll be on this forever, guys. But if we're going to have him in there as a gadget guy, maybe let him throw a couple times just so it actually looks like a gadget thing instead of like, Dan Hawkins sees him like, hey, what's going to happen? He just knows it's going to be a run. But I'm going to jump off, let you guys finish it. Can't wait to listen. Yeah, go Vandals.
Go Vandals. So, Boatman, we've got a UC Davis player joining us. I don't know if you saw that, Finn Rudd. And he literally, you'll love this. Your punter is nasty.
Oh, that's funny. hey, he had,
punter you, baby, punter you.
Just as a stop. We'll get into special teams later. Positives, we have a good punter. That's my take on special teams. That's about all the good on special teams. I guess kind of like, not a rebuttal to like Brian's thing, he said it got predictable that Beaudry was going to have to throw underneath quick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I totally agree with that. Like the thought that Beaudry only throws underneath isn't necessarily true. I think we saw more 10+ yard throws in the middle of the field from Beaudry last night than I think we've seen ever. Right? Like,
yeah,
he challenged him vertically in the middle of the field. He challenged him vertically down the sidelines. He challenged him on the out in the flats with quick stuff. He challenged him in the middle of slants. Like, it was everywhere. And I think once we had to adjust to throwing more quick stuff down in the middle of the field, Chris, in that third quarter, is they started to blitz us a lot more. Yeah. And so I think it became more of a get the ball out of the hand quickly kind of thing. He felt that pressure. And I think, what does that go back to? I don't put that on Beaudry whatsoever on those. I put that on the offensive line, right? And we talked about a weak spot of this team can be the offensive line. Like our two weakest position groups, like nothing against these guys. It's our O-line and it's our secondary, right? And I think we saw that last night. when you have a quarterback who's not as mobile as CJ, or you have a quarterback like Beaudry who's not as mobile as CJ, it's hard to mask not great offensive line play sometimes, because if stuff ever breaks down with like when CJ's in, you can just run, you can just take off. When Beaudry's in, it becomes, hey, we have to get the ball out quickly. They started blitzing us with more middle linebackers. That's where those holding calls came in, and that's kind of killed some drives. And I think would have, maybe what cost us some points off on the board there. So I wouldn't necessarily agree with Brian that like we got predictable with underneath throws. It was more like I think we had to adjust to feeling pressure constantly and had to get the ball out of the hand fast because he was getting hit pretty much every play in the third quarter.
But we only gave up 1 sack, which is also kind of impressive. Which Beaudry showed. I don't want to get into the negatives, but we're just talking quarterback, right? Well, so I'm gonna take this
I mean,
off.
we have to. It's been our big thing all off season, right? And we thought we were getting something to solve it this game. Turns out we just gave ourselves even more of a headache. So
yeah, dude, trying to co-host and play producer is so hard. I'm like trying to take positives off, so I'm clicking negatives. People that are listening are like, I don't get it. Tune into the YouTube show and you'll get it. I miss Dallas right now. But yeah, like just talking quarterback play. Beaudry, though, on a couple of those read options, man, like we were sitting there and because I had some people over and we were just like, dude, you've got to pull. Like he had ones where he had 30 yards. I mean, I guess you can't see if the near defender was there, but like, dude, he had some where he could have pulled and had room. And if you look at my who's going to be quarterback 1 stats, Beaudry's surprisingly close in the yards per carry category to CJ and Zach Borish.
Because he had like what 2 or 3 rushes and they were both good, right? And I think it shows he needs to run more potentially.
He's like sneaky athletic. Like
I don't think we don't really get to see what our offense would have looked like with
Mike
CJ
Beaudry had 3 rushes for 16 yards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what is that? He's averaging over 4 yards a carry. 4 times 3 or 4 times 4 is 16 yards. So that's
right.
Running 4 times, that's a first down and almost had another. So like, I'm not saying obviously he's a running quarterback. I think part of the reason he's good at running is because it's not expected. CJ went 2 rushes for 10 yards. So he's averaging 5 yards. And then Zach Borish had the, negative 8.2 yards, which kind of sucks, but, not negative, had 8.2 yards, which is awesome, but I wish we could have seen him throw. But I agree with you. It was kind of sad. We see CJ Jordan kind of show up and we're excited. It's finally his era. It's the guy most of us wanted to see. Just because, like we said, we think we know what this team can be with Beaudry. We don't know what they'll be with CJ. And then Beaudry gets to come in. So it's kind of like a double fake. It felt like I missed the part where he was hurt. And I don't think the announcers maybe even said anything. I think we just finally figured it all out. Which those announcers...
we'll leave that for negatives.
Yeah. The broadcast itself was pretty great.
Yeah,
like,
the
quality,
production quality.
They do like the B-roll scenes of like the nearby area, and I was like, this feels like an ESPN broadcast. I like this ESPN Plus thing. And then you have announcers. Raspy voice dude, just like
who just would say they would just guess names of dudes. Yeah, like say, oh, that was so and so, and then come back the next play.
Like,
actually,
that was Andre Carter.
It's like
what? And then like, I don't know. They had some times where I was just like, what's happening here? Do we need to go down and be the UC Davis color and play-by-play?
Yeah.
But, then the other
some other
thing
positives, I guess. Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say. So moving on to other positives, quarterback play. I think we can settle that. They're like Mike Beaudry looked serviceable. Like we knew he would be. We thought he would probably be the starter. Yeah,
he looked comfortable.
He has looked better in 2021 than he did in 2020. You can tell having a year under his belt in the system has been extremely beneficial to his development. Beaudry has looked good this year, and yes. We know everyone's going to be like, but the pick. You can't like punish the guy for one major mistake in a game. I get it was in crunch time.
And that's what happens. You're forcing it, right? Like,
we were 20-point dogs in this game, guys. Everyone's giving us flack for like Boatman and I picked us to lose by 10. I think Dallas picked us to lose 13, by like 13. Yeah, and then I think maybe Marceau picked us to lose by like it was either like 17 or 20, but we were all basically below the Vegas line of 20 and a half. So like we were more optimistic than Vegas was, and Beaudry showed that we could be good.
Yeah, we're a frisky team. I mean, I guess like to move on to like other positives. We ran the ball well. We averaged over 6 yards a carry. I mean, and that wasn't just Zach Borish's 70-yard run, which sure helps, right? But I mean, Elijah Cummins ran the ball well. Like we got a lot of positive yards out of our run game. I was really impressed with our run game overall. And you listen to Coach Petrino on Ball Game and Prater in down the Treasure Valley this last week. Mm-hmm. He had even talked about they've ran the ball well, and I would have going into this game that was what they're hoping to do. And I would agree that we can run the ball decently well, which does take pressure off your quarterback no matter who it is, right?
Yep.
Receivers, Tress Trainer. Like I think that might be the biggest difference from the spring, Chris, is that like. We still have Cottrell, we still have Hatton. Now you throw in Tress Trainer, now you throw in Mekhi Stevenson. You can throw Elijah Cummings a quick ball, right? Like we just have guys he can get the ball to and just go make plays. But Tress Trainer looked like a baller last night out there. And I mean, that helps so much. And I think that could be maybe our biggest addition from the difference from the spring to the fall is we have better receiving core. And that just like helps tremendously.
Yeah, I mean, like, who would have thought that, like, Cottrell Haywood, 3 receptions, 49 yards, like, we're just kind of, like, glossing over that. Cottrell Haywood has been basically queued up to be the number one once Cotton left. And, like, we've had recruiting with Hayden Hatton. We've had incoming transfers like Trainer and Mekhi Stevenson. And obviously, it's not that Cottrell's bad. It's, like, we've just given it to where he doesn't have to carry as much of a load. And it's benefiting this offense.
Everyone is get more guys. He get more open, right? Like, He's going to make Trez more open. Trez is going to make him more open. You know what I mean? Like you can't like, if you're a defensive coordinator, you can't go like, we have to bracket this guy. We have to, like when we had Jeff, it was like, we have to make sure Jeff does not beat us. Right. Like that's what teams would do to us. Right. Or when we played like a UC Davis in 2018, they had, was it Keelan,
Keelan Doss.
Yeah, it's like we cannot let him, and he didn't. We still got beat by UC Davis, but we made sure Keelan Doss didn't beat us. Right? Usually, when you get to like this level of football, and there's a guy, the other team has a dude. Like you make sure that dude does not beat you, especially at receiver.
Stop the studs.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty big thing at this level of football, where you get guys who are everyone's good, but then you have another guy who's like here, right?
Yeah,
you can't do that with our receivers right now. Good luck trying to find. If they want to stop Terez, like it's only going to make Hayden and Cottrell more open. So I mean, I'm fine with it, and we have guys to make plays on that side of the ball. So I feel pretty good about the offense. I mean, 500 yards of offense against a top 10 team on the road. Our first FCS game, and that was week 5. So hopefully we take a lot of positives from our offensive performance and translate it into not being pissed, but more like, all right, we can do this and like have them more like, okay, let's go do this from now on. Like make this normal. If we do that, Vandal fans be happy because that's a good thing.
Yeah. And just like to plug the interception at the end, one last little plug for Beaudry.
Mm-hmm.
Like Devin King is an All-American caliber DB. I think he was voted on one of the. He either made the actual one or he made like Hero Sports' like class ones a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So like it's not like he got picked off by a scrub either. Like this is a guy with potential NFL talent. Like that's the kind of guy that's supposed to fool a quarterback who's getting his first real start in a year, you know, in crunch time. And that's what happened. At the end of the day, I guess like you mentioned it, wide receiver looked good, defense looked good. We gave up 3.6 yards a rush. I mean, sure, the average is first down every time. Yeah.
At the end, I mean, that's what happened. We faced something we didn't plan to see, right? And that can hurt you, especially as you get tired. That's our first game we've really been in. Had to play a full game, start to finish, where we're in it, right? So, sometimes your game speed might not just be there. But I mean, the end there it got bad. But I mean, on average, those were gashing us, but we still averaged 3.6 yards a rush on defense. Like that's not bad against a team that has literally one of the best running backs in FCS football.
Yeah,
and we didn't let him kill us.
Yeah, we
didn't even let him kill us.
Yeah, how like Alonzo Gilliam like basically had a pedestrian day for his standards, which in its own is worth. Like, if we weren't close in this game, we would have been bragging about how we held Alonzo Gilliam to only 64 yards, 3.2 yards a carry. Like, That on its own is success for most programs going up against this UC Davis team. And like, I guess what I'm trying to remind people is like, yes, we talked about like for this to go right first, we had to catch them in a trap game. And it does look like possibly this was a trap game for UC Davis. They kind of fell into it and let it become that trap game. But like at the same time, Idaho played well. And people are only mad about this game, which is what's so weird because so many people had pretty much rid us off like within our own fan base. And then when they saw that we were leading and we gave it second time, we've played UC Davis and sacrificed the lead. I think it just pissed people off, and we're about to get into the negatives and we'll talk about why. But like the positives here, guys, you got to remember UC Davis is a top 8 team going into this. They're ranked, I think, number 6 or 5 in my poll. Like I have them higher than Eastern Washington. Like this is a really good team. They're a team that I said was a dark horse this year. Like this team could very well be the class of the Big Sky. They've already beaten Weber State, who's the 4-time defending champ. We look to be exactly what we thought we were. Like, and we talked about the rest of their schedule. They don't get challenged again until Eastern in like early November or late October.
Yeah.
Like, this team probably goes undefeated. Like at the end of the year, we're going to look at this and go, we lost with a chance to win this game to potentially the number 1 team in the country. We'll see how the rest of the season goes, but they could very well by playoff time be the number 1 ranked team in the country.
I think overall
got to take positive from that.
Overall positive. I'm going to break this up into overall positive performance. We performed like good to very good on-field performance, right? I think that's
for the most part.
Well, performance-wise, good performance. That's why you can. And we'll get into the negatives, which I think will not talk so much about the performance, but more other decisions.
Yeah, so I think this one was simple. We got outcoached. I mean, why do you go for it on 4th down, like a couple times that we did early where we were like on our 40, giving them the ball in their good field position. But then at the end of the game there, it was 4th and 3, 4th and 4. We had been moving the ball. Boris basically looked unstoppable other than the time he got stopped on 4th down. I know that they did stop him on 4th down. Dude, I mean, not even before I backtrack or just hit the easy dunk on that field goal decision. Even kind of what Brian was saying, there at the end of the game, Paul really started to revert back to his shallow crossing routes. On one of those 3rd downs, I think it was Cottrell and Trainer literally about ran into each other, just doing a shallow crossing route. And I'm like, why? Like, because I agreed with you. We had actually looked pretty good about pushing the ball down the field. I don't know why in that moment we decided to revert back to kind of shallow crossing routes. And it just felt like when crunch time came, we folded. And we got 2 opportunities at it and basically pissed both of them away. And I don't think that I know Beaudry threw the pick. I don't think that much of it was on the players. I think the play calling down the stretch there in the 4th quarter with 5 minutes left to go just kind of put the nail in the coffin for us. Literally, I don't have a lot of negative takeaways other than we'll probably get to the field goal and the decision for that. But it just felt like most of that game, we actually were playing better and almost bullying UC Davis a little bit. But then like Dan Hawkins realized that, holy crap, I'm getting outcoached. And he just like flipped the switch and they were able to do what UC Davis was supposed to do. And Dan Hawkins proved it again. He's just a better coach than Paul.
I mean, I think the spot that you got that kind of changed everything is when they brought in the running their Borish. What's his name again?
Hawkins.
Yeah, if they don't do that, I think we win that game. I mean, they scored
that little touchdown celebration too, where they're all just like,
yeah, I mean,
and then they got the excessive. I'm like, I didn't see anything excessive about that. What do you mean excessive?
Yeah.
That was funny though.
I don't think I'm not sure if you're Hastings, that's the good move to do if you're already the backup and you know you're going to lose your job as soon as Rodriguez comes back. So that's interesting. As soon as they brought in Tompkins, though, it completely changed the game. I mean, it was late in the game, right? So it was the first game Idaho was in, like had to play start to finish all years, right? So we hadn't gone through that yet. Guys are naturally going to be tired. First conference road game that plays into it. They waited to do that until the end of the game. And because of that, like, not that we got like lulled to sleep, but you get like in a mentality of like, all right, I know like your mind has been trained to the point where you're familiar with what's probably coming. You know what I mean? If they kept doing the same thing with Hastings and Alonzo Gilliam, we probably knew what, not knew what was coming, but you know what I'm saying? And then they just completely just flip the switch on us, which then adds a whole nother level. And then you have to start thinking even harder again, right? So that's a great coaching decision by Hawkins there that just kind of, I think we weren't ready for. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can chalk that up to, and it shouldn't be happening, I guess, in year 9, but I don't know if you can chalk that up to, again, first game we've had to stay mentally sharp in from start to finish, and it shouldn't happen. I'm not trying to make an excuse, but I don't know if we've been in that level this year. I guess, special teams killed us again, except this time it was PAT field goal, 2 blocks.
We should have gone into halftime up 4. We had a PAT blocked, and then we missed a field goal at the end. That's 4 points. Yep. At the end of the game then that field goal makes makes absolute sense to make. And obviously it gets blocked probably anyways, but that's at least going into that. Then there's not even questioning Paul's play calling there of going for the field goal because it made absolute sense to tie up the game. We left 4 points on the board. We left 7 points on the board and we lost by 7.
I just don't know why you kick a field goal with
4 minutes left and 3 timeouts
to go down by 4 points. Because
the worst case scenario, you miss it and they're getting the ball right about where you would have got it, making it anyways. Because making that field goal did nothing. Because if you make that field goal, we're still down by more than a field goal. Yeah. Yeah. So we would have had to score the touchdown anyways.
PAT field goal, cost us the game. You know what I mean? Like a miss and 2 blocks. Like I said, that's 7 points we just left hanging there, right? That's the game. That's literally the game. Is 7 points. I don't know. It's I think that hurts me the most is because it's something you literally think about the least, right? Like when you think of special teams, you think of punt, kickoff, the return game, right? The last thing you think about is how do we properly block a PAT field goal? How do we properly protect our team as a PAT field goal? And it was not, the operation was fine. Snap, hold, kick, minus the miss. Nothing was awry there from what I saw to warrant a block. The only thing that warranted I saw where it came up on that last one. It came literally just right through the guard tackle. It's just all that is, all that comes down to, Chris, is they just wanted it more. That's what that means. It means your guys mailed it in and their guys didn't. And I think PAT field goal is literally all effort in terms of blocking or trying to get a block. It's literally just all about effort.
Yeah.
And
who's actually going to make that commitment?
It's the simplest thing, right? It's literally the simplest thing. You have to block for 2 seconds. You have to just hold the guy for 1,001,
literally
1,002.
Stand them up and don't let them get a foot forward, and it's in.
You can even give it penetration. It's just about they have to get back there so far. You just literally have to hold your ground as a 300-pound human being, right?
Yeah.
For just a second.
Yeah. Stand wide.
Yeah. And so, it literally comes down to all effort. I damn well know either tonight or Tuesday or Wednesday, they're going to be in full pads doing PAT field goal for probably 2 periods, which is 10 straight minutes.
It's just we've had 4 block kicks this year through 4 games. We're having a blocked kick a game and haven't even think back to Cade's in 20 think back to Cade's career as a field goal kicker. 28 think of 2018, think of our time in the Big Sky. We've had so many kicks blocked. 2018, 2019, spring 2020. I don't know if we had any blocked in 2020. And then this year, we're talking, it's been a pattern. We just keep giving up PAT field goal blocks. I think Cade one year went 12 to 17 because 4 of them were blocked. Come on now. It's just why I just don't know how it keeps happening. I just don't get it. It's our linemen just when they get to it, they're just okay, here we go. It's just, I don't know. It pisses me off. And I don't know what the problem. I don't know what the solution is. Yeah, because it's the simplest thing. Anymore. I mean, let alone the decision didn't make sense. It just didn't. But then the fact that you can't even execute it, that's just like getting kicked in the nuts twice. Like that's like you're laying on the ground and then they come back and finish it. Like that made it so brutal that like when that happened, I literally did not think we were going to get the ball back. I was like, the way UC Davis drove down there at the end, just up the A gap, up the A gap, up the A gap. And it was just like, what are we doing? Like Noah Ellis played freaking great. Jonah Kim played great. And then in the fourth quarter, I don't know if it was just legs or what, like that run defense just kind of like,
the speed.
Hopkins and Gilliam almost had most of their yards there on that like last drive. And
it comes down to having to defend multiple guys, right? It comes down to quarterback and
it finally broke is what it was.
And it's what we talk about.
Didn't break, and then it finally.
But even then, it actually still just bent at that final drive. We got the ball back with 1:45 left. I don't care if you don't have only have no timeouts. 1:45 in college football is
stops on first
easy.
Down, stops out of bounds.
It's easy, but it's not impossible.
It's not impossible. It's not the NFL.
It's
where the clock.
It's not the NFL,
ticks.
Right? Like
it's two ways to stop the clock in college.
Yeah. Like
Dude,
it's
speaking of which, quick side note: did you see the TCU Texas game?
No, because it was I was at work getting ready for the WVU game.
Talk about. I don't know this wide receiver's name. Somebody needs to look him up. This wide receiver with like TCU making a drive before the half breaks his freaking leg. Like you see, it's one of those legs and it just snapped and you immediately like, oh, I think he broke it. He gets up because they don't have timeouts and literally hopped off the field and collapsed. And everyone's like, what is he doing? Get down. And you look and it's like, oh, well, he got the first down. But if he lays down, it's a 10-second runoff with 9 seconds left, and they go because
they have no timeout.
And that's like that guy's a warrior. Like, I'm like, if I break my leg, I'm taking a minute. Like it
shows you can really if you really want it, you can really do it.
He wanted it more.
He wanted more.
But sorry, that was a total side note.
No,
we were talking about minute drills, like. A guy can break his leg and get off the field and keep the clock stopped.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the defense wore out there at the end, but even like we said, like it finally broke, but then at the end, it still just bend not break, right? Like it'd be so easy to roll over and demoralized after they had just scored 2 straight touchdowns on you and you have to give up a blocked field goal and it was the game. Like that's easy to roll over. I mean, in the defense, credit to them, like they gave up a little bit. We got the ball back with 1:45 left. And for a chance to go tie the game up. I mean, kind of also talking about different game management points. Like we burned 2 timeouts this game.
Classic.
Out of a change of possession.
Yeah. And we kept getting. We had these drives. Yeah, you can't do that. You should have.
Like we came out with a punt. We came out and we had to burn timeouts because Beaudry was going to take a delay game, and Paul had to call a timeout because
Beaudry took a delay game. So there was another point in the game where we probably would have, but it was early. Like that's on quarterback mismanagement, not Petrino. Yeah. Those so he had to burn timeouts because guys, I think things like that are some of my biggest pet peeves as a football fan is when stuff like that happens. Like he has a play called and then guys that go out there, I don't think they realize like how much time ticks off. You know what I mean? Like it's just dumb and idiotic to think, but I don't think guys realize or are plugged into how much time actually ticks off. But I mean, I guess to wrap up the negatives, right? Like we got to execute better on just the tiniest little things. If we're going to be a team like that, again, that is a top 10 team in the country. And we were even talking about it on our show Tuesday night that some of us thought that UC Davis should be number 1 in the Big Sky Power rankings, not Montana going into this week. We really thought UC Davis should. So some people could have made an argument UC Davis above Eastern right now. After
I probably would have.
I
probably would have ranked UC Davis. I probably would have ranked UC Davis.
I'm doing this
if I would have voted last week, but I didn't watch UC Davis the week before. Oh my God, the Bears just did some crazy stuff. Anyway, I didn't vote. I didn't vote last week. They returned like a fumble, and Khalil Mack pitched it to a dude to run for like another 20 yards.
Wow.
Yeah, but I didn't watch enough games last week for me to vote. But if I would have, I did know the Weber State UC Davis game. I watched a little bit of that. I would have voted UC Davis 1 in the Big Sky Power rankings last week. Just be like. That's a hell of a win for them going into that. Like we were 20-point dogs. I mean,
20.5.
Yeah. And so I mean, it's if you're going to win a game, if you're going to win games versus UC Davis, Eastern, and Montana, you can't get that little stuff wrong.
Yeah.
And I guess to kind of flip back to a positive, until literally the second to last play of the game, we were winning the turnover battle. We took care of the ball. We took care of the ball until that last play of the game. Yeah. Right? Like we took care of, and that's fantastic. So if you're going to win again, and we always say, like, what needs to happen for us to beat UC Davis, Eastern, and Montana, right? Like, what do we need to do? Take care of the ball and get the little stuff right. And I think if that happens with this team, we are good enough that we can actually win games.
Hey, and let's talk real quick because I've seen it pull up in the comment YouTube comment section a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, what a punting battle. Because this did come down to field position. Somebody was right. There wasn't a lot of sustained 80-yard drives. There's a lot of big gap plays or starting the ball close.
Mm-hmm.
Lightborn, 7 punts, 322 yards, averaged 46, had a long of 67, had 2 pinned down in the 20, with 1 being a touchback. Daniel Whalen, who was, I believe, All-American, or at least was first team All-Big Sky last year, also 7 punts, 339 yards, so a little bit longer, averaged 48.4, 61 yards, 4 inside the 20, and a touchback. So there you go. Like, we had to start inside our own 24 times. Like,
yeah, I mean,
we did
the same thing to them.
Were actually pretty big in this game.
Hey, it's guess what? Yeah, punting matters. It's Telly. It's my favorite play in football, right? I mean, never is there a play where there's so much yardage up for grabs, right? And it's fun because you're literally you're literally turning the ball over. It's a forced turnover you're doing. Guys are flying down, and that's why college punts are more fun. Because of they don't have to block like NFL does, so guys get out and cover more, and some stuff gets to happen. But yeah, hell of a punting battle. It was fun. I appreciate that. I feel pretty good about that. We got to get better at the kicking game in terms of PAT field goal, and that's about it on that.
Yep. All right. Well, let's move into takeaways to wrap this thing up. What does this game do to change your opinion on Idaho?
I mean, I guess like something quick about UC Davis is they've got outgained 100 yards each their last 2 games. So like I kind of find that interesting. Like that's a hard thing to if they keep replicating things like that. Granted, their schedule gets really easy the rest of the year, but that either shows you how much better of a coach they have than a lot of people. Like Hawkins out coaching Jay Hill last weekend too.
Yeah.
I like that's hard to sustain that success. Like it's very hard to get outgained and keep winning games. That's something you don't want to keep up. So kind of turn it into the Idaho mold. If we keep just outgaining dudes, and if our offense works well enough, like things will happen eventually, right? Like you win the yardage battle, that's a good barometer of how the game can go, right? There's stuff that happens in between, but if you keep winning yardage battles as Idaho, that's a good chance that you're going to win some good football games. Takeaways. I feel comfortable. Like we didn't know what this team was. We sat here for like 6 weeks, Chris, and like had to just guess what we were going to be in the Big Sky because we had no idea, right?
Yep.
I don't think there's too many teams out there talent-wise that are better than Idaho, except maybe Montana top to bottom. Like everyone say, what about Eastern? They just beat Montana last night. Yeah, that's because not because of one dude, but kind of because they have maybe the best player in FCS. But like top to bottom, I think Idaho competes well against anyone in the Big Sky, performance wise. We got to clean up some little things, but I feel pretty good relatively to like where we could have been out of this game, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm positive, I guess it all depends on what happens homecoming next weekend, whether we kind of sail it and go, well, we're actually not a bad team. We can just kill Portland State because that's really easy to do. And it's kind of also a look ahead spot for us because guess what? We got Eastern and Montana on deck after that. I feel pretty good about where we should be next week. I mean, next week will tell. I kind of already in my head think of where we're going to finish, but I'll save that for Tuesday.
Yeah, because we've got some. That's the funny part. We still have to break down Portland State and what might happen with the quarterbacks. If it is possibly concussion, CJ could be ready to go. Do you even play CJ at this point? 4 games, you can still slap the red shirt on him. We'll cover that more on Tuesday. The takeaways for this, like, dude, our running backs. I love it when I had a watch party, right, with a couple people who this is their first game watching Idaho. Maybe they tuned in a bit for Indiana, right? Like maybe, but like this is our first real sit down watching of it, and they were all just like, "Dude, I love our running back room," and I'm like, "Yeah." And Nick Romano didn't get a lot of running in this. It looks like Roshan still probably a little banged up because he didn't get a lot of running in this. I'm like, Andre Carter got to look like he bounced back a bit. So I'm like, our running backs are maybe the deepest in the Big Sky. Like we have like 4 or 5 dudes right now that can absolutely ball out. That was a plus. Beaudry has proven that we are exactly in the role I think we are going to be in this year. And I know people don't want to hear it. We are a playoff spoiler this year. I don't think we're going to be a playoff team. I did say I think we will beat one of these ranked teams on our schedule. We obviously didn't do it against UC Davis, but we showed that we can hang, and that was on the road. We get Montana at home, Eastern, which we've proven we actually almost beat them last year on the red. Why not? We get Montana State and Bozeman to close out the year. Like we will probably beat a ranked team this year. We will play playoff spoiler, and Mike Beaudry is the perfect quarterback to play playoff spoiler. That is where I'm at with this team. Because you got to play playoff spoiler to become the playoff team. So, people got to view this as an unfortunate timing because, Paul's on a lame duck contract next year, so that's a whole different conversation. But this year, we probably get tripped up by one team we shouldn't, whether that be Idaho State, NAU, Southern Utah, Portland State.
Idaho State's not terrible.
I think we're better than
NAU's
all
not bad.
Yeah, NAU. Yeah, I smoked Idaho State. But I think we beat a team we shouldn't, and we're going to lose to a team we shouldn't. So, looking at the rest of the year, 1, 2, 3. We'll probably win 3 more games. So we'll be classic Paul Petrino. No, 5, 4. So we'll probably be 5 and 6. And then is Paul's best record in 3 seasons.
If we go 6 and 5, right? Like, I mean, 6 and 5 with this toughest schedule we have, that's a positive year ish, right? Like
it's
where the big
spoiler role.
Where the Big Sky's, if you put yourself to win 6. If we're looking down the bottom weeks of the year and we're playing our last couple of games and we're looking at either 6 or 7 wins, like if we can just, I'm not saying like that's what's going to happen, right? Things can still go sideways. I know Idaho football, like I've been around it my whole life. Things can still get weird and go sour, or like, a team can take a game like this and just kind of run with it. I guess I'll address Jake Schneider's comment. Like, what are we great at? I'm gonna say we're great at running the football and we have a great front seven. Like that's our identity, right? Like our identity.
We're smash nose football.
We're a physical team. Like that's our identity. I mean, look at why we've beat Eastern the last few years. It's because we're more physical than them. That's why
where their coach addressed it in media days. Like somebody straight asked them, and he goes, "We struggle with physical teams like Idaho."
Yes, so that's our identity. Even if we don't have a great offensive line in terms of pass protection, we are still a physical team when it comes to running the football and stopping the run. I mean, we literally held an All-American running back to like nothing until he literally had a running quarterback to open up lanes for him and open up opportunities, right? Like that. Like that's a great front seven. Our front seven had a couple sacks last night. We had more sacks than they did. Like. We saw more pressure on the quarterback. We started dialing up some better blitzes, I think, there in the second half. Like, we had some good stuff going. Like, Dan Hawkins knew he had to make a change because we were out physical. We were winning the physical battle versus them in that second half. We were content with just trying to kick their ass, and we were kicking their ass physically until they had to change quarterbacks and change the way they had to get space and time, right?
They saw what we were doing with Borish and said, well, we can do that.
Yeah, they have their guy. So, I mean, that I think to answer Jake's question, like, what's our identity? What are we great at? Physicality. That's which is fine, and that's why we beat.
Take Eastern. It back to our Big Sky preview episode.
Yes,
with frickin' Colton Nuanez. We're all sitting here talking about Tyler Vanderwall, Eric Barrier, blah blah blah, and then he's the guy, kind of the gatekeeper of the Big Sky. Been around it the longest, covering it the most, kind of the most credentialed person in the Big Sky to have a take other than Portland State being top 5. Like, God, that's going to keep just sticking with him. But he literally said, is the Big Sky still a quarterback league? And we were all kind of like, what do you mean? Of course it's not. He's like, Weber State's had terrible quarterbacks the last 4 years, and they've won the conference 4 years in a row. He goes,
Cam Humphrey's bad.
Eastern Washington has had arguably the best quarterbacks in the conference for the last 5 years, and they've only won the conference twice in those 5 years. Like, so he's saying he's kind of got a point. Like, is this a quarterback league anymore, or is it a defense first running? Montana State went to the playoffs with a linebacker at quarterback. Like the Big Sky might not be a quarterback driven league anymore. We just need to look at what we've done with Zach Borish. I am super against going triple option. I know more and more people seem to be warming up to it, but like him in that wildcat role is extremely, extremely lethal.
I will say one thing about Borish. We did see him come away limping in one play last night. I don't think we saw him after that. So right. I'm right.
Think about it. Giovanni McCoy.
Think about it, man. This Bears game is so ugly, man. The Lions had a pick anyway.
But
no. I'm saying, but think about it, right? Like I saw Borish come away limping from one play, right? They showed him like coming. I don't think we saw him play after that. I hope everything's fine. I hope maybe it was just like a precautionary thing, or I'm completely wrong.
Stinger.
They did play a game, some plays after that. But I mean, this is not a quarterback league anymore. I don't think right? Like if I think Beaudry can be better than Cam Humphrey at Montana, like what you saw last night, right? Yeah, exactly. Like if you put Beaudry on Montana, they probably even win a game. They beat
Eastern yesterday. Beaudry has beaten Eastern. Cam Humphrey has not beaten Eastern. Therefore, Cam
Humphrey was going to lose to Mason Petrino in Idaho until they had to bring in Dalton Snead again.
Yeah,
remember that? Like I was there on the sideline.
We were up like 13-0. We were going to win the game. Montana, and then they had to play. The Undertaker came, and you're just like, dong, and the smoke and the lightning, and all of a sudden,
and there's Dalton Snead.
Dalton Snead runs out, and you're like, oh, that was fun while it lasted. And sure enough, Dalton Snead
Cam Humphrey was going to lose to Mason Petrino at quarterback in Idaho.
And nobody is listening to us.
A team that was hurt.
Pumping Cam Humphreys is not that good for 2 years now, and all the Grizz fans or like Big Sky people are like, no, you guys are. The Idaho game was a fluke. I'm like, no. He's not a good quarterback.
I was there on the field watching that game, right? Like I saw it happen. I mean, so yeah, and if the identity of our team is physicality moving forward,
I'll take Beaudry. I think I'm ready. Like this is a Beaudry. Let's just ride Beaudry this year.
I could get kill on this take. I could get kill on this take, Chris. I think we match up well versus Montana. If I could get kill if we have a performance where we play our style of football and play a clean game, we match up very well versus Montana, right? They like that. I could get killed on that take in a few weeks, but from what I've seen Idaho progress, because we haven't seen Idaho play Montana since in Missoula in 2019, where we were actually beating them with their current quarterback, right? Yeah. Like where we were actually being more physical than them for that game. I think we match up well versus this Montana team. And I do think we'll steal a game versus an Eastern Montana or a Montana State. So I don't know which one. I think we will.
I want to close it out because we did have a lot of UC Davis people tune in today. Because they talk about people always wanting to like thin down the Big Sky, and the California schools usually get the scoot. Dude, I'm all in. Let's trade Sac State for UC Davis. Clap to you guys. Your fans are awesome, man. So like,
it's a good crowd. It's like a good crowd there last night. Yeah,
you guys have been like super interactive all week. One of the best like away. We were the away team. Away fan bases to come watch our show when your team was playing. Yeah. So thank you guys for that. Like I'm all in on keeping Davis. Plus, we already know they're probably FBS in the next 10 years if moves happen because they have
probably some of the best fan interaction from an opposing team. I'd say
congrats to you guys. It's like you guys, Montana and Eastern, I would say, are the schools that interact with us the most. So that's awesome. Thank you guys for that. And hopefully we can get a playoff matchup with you guys and we can do this all over again. Huh? But real quick, is UC Davis the best? I'm filling out Brian already sent out the poll while we've been live. Is UC Davis your number one team? Are you going to mark it down on this show?
They'll be my number one. They'll be my number two.
Behind Eastern?
I have to give it to Eastern. I was pretty out on Eastern, saying, I'm kind of questioning some of their wins up until last night. So I'm going to have to go with Eastern. You beat the big dog, you could be the big dog. Also,
true.
Based off of principle alone, also Idaho was ninth in the Big Sky Power rankings last week. We've been bottom like quarter or third of the league.
Yeah, this will be another you lose but move up.
Right.
Like, who else?
Well, I'm saying for UC Davis, right? Like who had a better win? Eastern, who was 3, or UC Davis at 2 versus us? Technically, right off of ranking. So I'm going to put UC Davis at 2, but I would feel comfortable. I would love to see UC Davis versus Montana. I really would love to see UC Davis versus Montana.
You can tell Brian Marceau was listening live.
He heard his name.
Is this about Cam Humphreys or Big Sky Power rankings? Oh, did he freeze?
Oh man, I think he's on his phone. I think I gotta go with. I still think UC Davis though is I would love to. They're top 3 team in the Big Sky in my opinion, right? Like I think if I had to make a bracket, it's Eastern, Montana, UC Davis. Second bracket is Weber and Montana State. Everyone else after that, who the hell knows? Man, Brian's having some fun technical difficulties.
Real quick, Brian, are you there? Because we're about to close, and you look like you are trying to call us from the middle of the woods. He's in the middle of the woods. Anyways, Thank you guys for tuning in to the Tubs of the Club. We were 20.5-point dogs, everybody, and we hung in there with one of the best teams in the Big Sky, one of the best.
Good teams win. Great teams cover.
Teams cover. And we'll see you guys on Tuesday for the next preview. Go Vandals.
Go Vandals.
And it's time for Colby Acuff to play us out. Go Vandals.
So raise your glass and have a drink with me. Here's to the Vandals in the crowd. All just out there living the dream. Right up one and only Moscow drink.